This is the most explosive automotive secret in history. Welcome to our explainer on a world-beating, ultra-fast machine designed entirely in the dark against the boss's orders that accidentally changed the world forever. 275 kilometers per hour. That's 171 miles per hour for the Americans watching. In the 1960s, that wasn't just fast, that was straight-up science fiction. It instantly obliterated everything Ferrari had, crowning it the undisputed king of the road. But you know what the craziest part is? The man whose name was literally on the building wanted this project dead.
Section 1. The Secret Rebellion. Building a track monster in the dark. Picture this. It's 1965, and a massive clash of visions is threatening to tear Lamborghini apart. Founder Ferruccio Lamborghini? He wanted sedate, comfortable front-engine grand tours to rival Ferrari. But his top engineers, Giampaolo Lallara, Paolo Cenzani, and Bob Wallace, were young, rogue, and totally obsessed with racing. They knew, absolutely knew, the future was rear mid-engine layouts. So, when the boss said no, they just went rogue. Working late into the night in absolute secrecy, completely in their spare time, they engineered a track monster. When Ferruccio finally caught them, he figured, hey, it might make a decent marketing tool. He had absolutely no idea what was about to happen.
Section 2. The Ultimate Bluff. Fooling the world's press.
Okay, the suspense here is wild. The 1966 Geneva Motor Show is looming. The team gets Carrozzeria Bertone to design this absolutely breathtaking, timeless body, finishing it literally days before the debut. But then there's a massive, panic-inducing oversight. Nobody actually checked if their massive V12 engine would fit inside the engine bay. And guess what? It didn't. So, on the world stage, these brilliant, rebellious engineers pulled off the ultimate deception. They stuffed the engine bay with heavy ballast just to fix the ride height, chained the hood shut, and literally blocked the world's motoring press from looking inside. They were actively deceiving the media at one of the biggest auto shows on Earth, selling a supercar with zero engine.
And, incredibly, the bluff totally worked. The sleek design, standing an impossibly low 110 centimeters off the ground, completely stole the show. The press lost their minds over a car they couldn't even look inside. The reaction was so overwhelmingly explosive that Lamborghini had no choice but to put it into production. They dubbed it the Miura, named after a fierce breed of Spanish fighting bulls, which permanently secured the Raging Bull as Lamborghini's legendary badge. So despite a locked hood and no engine to show, they had an absolute overnight sensation on their hands.
Section 3. Birth of the Supercar. Engineering the impossible. So how exactly do you fit a massive V12 behind the driver without making the car handle like a school bus? Well, you do something revolutionary. Taking a page from the tiny Morris Mini, they mounted the V12 transversely, sideways, across the chassis. They effectively merged the engine and the gearbox into a single casting just to save space. This kept the wheelbase brutally short, making the car terrifyingly agile. It was an engineering marvel. It was such a profound shock to the system that automotive journalists literally had to invent a brand new word to describe it. They called it a supercar, and the Miura was the very first. Once this supercar hit the streets, it ignited an absolute cultural explosion. Just look at this roster. Frank Sinatra had one. Eddie Van Halen owned one. And fun fact, if you listen closely to the Van Halen song Panama, that engine you hear revving is his actual Miura. Legendary jazz musician Miles Davis owned one too, though he notoriously crashed his on the West Side Highway at 60 miles per hour while on cocaine, breaking both his ankles. And who could forget its starring role driving through the Alps in the legendary opening sequence of the 1969 film The Italian Job? The Miura wasn't just a car anymore, it was pure, unadulterated rockstar adrenaline.
Section 4. Pushing the limits. The explosive pursuit of horsepower.
Now, Lamborghini refused to let the competition catch up. They started with 350 PS in the P400, but immediately tweaked camshafts and intake manifolds for the P400S, pushing it to 370. Then, in 1971, they unleashed the ultimate road-going iteration, the P400 SV, ripping up the tarmac with 385 PS at an ear-shattering 7,850 RPM. The pursuit of power here was just absolutely relentless.
But the SV wasn't just about raw power. It was about fixing some pretty fatal flaws. Remember that shared engine and gearbox casting we talked about? Yeah, well, metal shavings from the gears were traveling into the engine oil, threatening to destroy the V12 from the inside out. Disastrous and incredibly expensive. So they split the lubrication systems. They also slapped on massive 9-inch wide rear tires, which forced them to aggressively flare the rear fenders for a vastly more aggressive stance. And aesthetically, they stripped those iconic eyelashes from the headlights. The SV was pure, refined menace. But here is the ultimate question for you. What happens when you push perfection a little too far? When the fastest car in the world just isn't extreme enough for the very engineers who secretly built it? Well, you get a monster.
Section 5. The doomed Jada prototype. A fiery end to a 440 bhp monster.
In 1970, test driver Bob Wallace decided the fastest car on Earth just wasn't cutting it. To conform to FIA racing regulations, he built the ultimate, uncompromised track version. He called it the Jada. He completely gutted a standard Miura, swapping out heavy steel chassis components and body panels for lightweight Avianal aluminum alloy and replacing the glass windows with plastic. He shaved off a mind-bending 800 pounds. Then, using a higher compression ratio and a dry sump lubrication system, he cranked the V12 engine to a terrifying 440 brake horsepower. It was an absolute weapon.
But this ultimate weapon met a really dark end. Sold to a private buyer after testing, it was taken out in April 1971 onto an unopened ring road around the city of Brescia. The resulting crash was so violent that the singular, priceless Jada burned entirely to the ground, destroyed forever. But it became such a mythic ghost in the automotive world that wealthy owners actually began begging the factory and private garages to convert their standard Miuras into SVJ replicas. They were just desperate to capture a piece of that lost magic.
Section 6. An Immortal Legacy. The multi-million-dollar masterpiece. Decades later, that mythic status has pushed the Miura's value straight into the stratosphere. Take those ultra-rare factory-converted SVJ models. One was originally built for the Shah of Iran, hidden under armed guard at his royal palace, seized during the Iranian Revolution, and later bought at auction by actor Nicolas Cage. Today, top-tier original Miuras are hammering down at auction for well over $1.9 million, and honestly, there is absolutely no ceiling in sight. The prices just keep climbing. So I want to leave you with this to think about. This was a car that wasn't supposed to exist. It was an unauthorized, secret rebellion by young engineers who bluffed the world's press with a locked hood and a pile of ballast. Yet, it accidentally birthed the word supercar and laid out the blueprint for every mid-engine performance car on the road today. Could the Lamborghini Miura be the greatest car ever built? Let that sink in. Thanks for joining us for this explainer, and we will see you next time.